I'm currently in the middle of the Tillamook State Forest in Oregon. It's incredibly dense, vibrantly green, and it's probably what you think about when you think of the Pacific Northwest. But almost every single tree that you're looking at, including this one, is fake.
Everything is fake!
Or rather, it's human-made. But if we go back 90 years ago, this lush green forest looked more like the moon. This was the site of the Tillamook Burn, a wildfire that burned so intense and so hot that it sterilized the soil. And to rebuild this ecosystem took the largest army of tree replanters in human history. It's an incredible story, and it starts at the Tillamook Forest Center. The Tillamook Forest Center here, really fun museum. Definitely come, really helps tell the story that we're telling as part of this video. But before we continue on through this area and then into the forest itself, I want to talk a little bit about what the fires were and why they were so unique. And to explain that, we have to first understand why the forest died. It wasn't a normal fire, it was something called a crown fire. To better explain that, there are generally three classifications of wildfires. There are ground fires, which largely remain underground, burning buried and dead vegetation. These kinds of wildfires are relatively low risk, but very hard to fully extinguish. Then there are surface fires, which, as it sounds, burns things on the surface.
I did not see that coming.
Think grasses and low-lying bushes. Not surprisingly, ground fires can often ignite surface fires, and these are higher risk, but also fairly easy to extinguish. And finally, we have crown fires. These are the big bads of wildfires as they burn in the tree canopy up high. They typically burn extremely hot, spread very quickly, and are nearly impossible to extinguish. Of all wildfires we have to fight, crown fires are the absolute worst. So the Tillamook Burn was driven by incredibly dry, fierce east winds funneling down through these coastal canyons. And the fire didn't just burn the underbrush. It jumped into the very tops, the crowns of the 400-year-old trees, creating a hurricane of flame that created its own weather system. And the most brutal part? The Tillamook Burn wasn't just one fire. But here's actually the really crazy part about all of this. This, where I'm standing right now, is technically a rainforest. You see, the Tillamook State Forest is located along the Coast Mountain Range, here in Oregon, of course. And this is an infamously wet and rainy part of the world. Carried along by the jet stream, moisture is wicked up from the Pacific Ocean for thousands of miles until it hits this land. Then that moisture condenses and drops mostly over these mountains. On average, this forest gets over 100 inches of rain a year, with some parts of it getting about 200 inches. For this area to have burned so hard and so hot would have taken an extreme series of events. But we're gonna get to that in a little bit, because as I'm looking across the river here, across the suspension bridge I just crossed, I can see in the distance a fire lookout. I don't know about you guys, but I wanna go climb a fire lookout. We're back home in Portland now after exploring the rugged history of the Tillamook Burn. But we're not unpacking just yet, because we're already in full prep mode for our next adventure, Ireland. Out in the Tillamook Forest, being off the grid is part of the experience. But when navigating a new country across the world, staying connected is essential. That's why we're so excited to partner with Holafly for today's video. Holafly is an international eSIM provider that gives you unlimited travel data in over 200 destinations. The absolute best part, we don't even have to be in Ireland to get our internet ready. We're setting it all up right now before we even leave. You just use their app or go to their website, select your destination, and they instantly email you a QR code. Scan it, install the digital SIM on your phone settings, and you're done. There's no swapping physical SIM cards, no hunting for airport Wi-Fi, and no surprise roaming fees. And they even have monthly plans covering 160 destinations for those of you traveling constantly. The second our plan touches down in Dublin, we can switch our Holafly eSIM on and instantly have unlimited data to navigate roads and share our trip with you, all while keeping our original WhatsApp numbers. And even after our eSIM expires, we still get 1 gigabyte per month with the always on feature. So if you have an international trip coming up, cross internet off your to-do list today. Click the link in our description below to get 5% off an eSIM or 10% off a Holafly plan for the first 12 months. Huge thanks to Holafly for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the Tillamook Burn. If you're ever curious whether you're in a rainforest or not, generally just look around, and if things like this tree right here are generally covered in a thick coating of moss, that's usually indicative that there's enough rainfall, enough wetness that can only be caused by a rainforest. There you go, a little geography knowledge there for you guys. So one of the really amazing parts about being in the Pacific Northwest is that there's a bunch of fire lookout towers kind of just scattered all around. They tend to be very hard to get to. Like you'd end up having to walk or hike, I should say, miles into them. But there is one here at the Tillamook Forest Center, which is sort of just naturally part of the Forest Center right off the highway. And so if you come when it's not too busy, you can climb in and have it all to yourself, which is what we're doing right now.
Kind of cool that they have this old radio here, especially because this was literally the only way that they were able to communicate. And I can tell you now, there is no cell service or Wi-Fi. But also, that wasn't an issue in the 30s. So for a lot of reasons, this was their main form of communication. But as we sit with some of this historic technology and some really insane images of what the forest looked like at various points of time, we should probably talk about the fires that plagued this area over 20 years. The first fire sparked on August 14th, 1933, after a very long, hot, and dry summer. In fact, the forests were so dry that many of the logging companies that were in this area had to stop operations early. But even with those precautions, it is believed that that first fire was started by a logging crew that was still operating. In the first 10 days of the fire, it was burning at a rate that was seen to be somewhat manageable for fire crews. But on August 24th, the humidity dropped and dry winds picked up, and it caused the fire to burn at an unbelievable rate. In the span of 24 hours, it burned 260,000 acres, until the September rains finally helped the firefighters put out the fire. But just as the land was starting to recover, it burned again in 1939.
You're joking. Not another one?
And then again in 1945, and then again in 1951.
By the end of the 1951 blaze, 350,000 acres were completely gone. The repeated burning left the soil less fertile and more susceptible to erosion. The degradation cooked the soil so deeply that natural seed banks were destroyed. The forest couldn't heal itself, so it needed a bailout. So if you're ever in Oregon and you're heading out along Oregon Route 6 to the coast, definitely take a stop here at the Tillamook Forest Center because it's actually really cool. There's like a really fun museum, and then of course all of the like suspension bridge and the fire lookout tower. But for us to continue telling our story, we actually want to get into the forest proper, which means going to find a hike.
I've heard Jeff has picked a real butt kicker of a hike.
Oh yeah.
Lucky me.
Yay.
Alexa and I have made it to our trailhead. We are hiking to the top of Kings Mountain, which sits at 3,226 feet.
You serious?
Now we're not at sea level right now, so we're probably already at about 1,000 to
Okay,
1,200 feet. So we're gonna be doing about 2,000 feet of elevation today. We've done worse. The Alps, much worse. Acatenango in Guatemala, much worse, much harder. So I think we're gonna be fine, but it should be a little bit of a scramble to getting up to the top. That said, the views, hopefully worth it.
I hope so.
So when we were at the Tillamook Forest Center, I asked the lady about this hike and she's like, you have walking poles, hiking poles. It's like, no. She's like, find a good stick because it's gonna be hard on your knees. Thankfully, there was 2 sticks waiting for us right here at the entrance.
Lucky us.
Also, you can tell from up here, it's 2.5 miles, so that's not actually that long of a hike.
2.5 and 2,000 feet of elevation. Oh my God.
It's 2.5 miles of uphill, folks. Well, let's get going. We are no more than 10 minutes into this hike, and Alexa, what do you think so far?
Oh, it's so beautiful. So many big trees, very green.
Like, it is one of the most stunning hikes I've already been on, and we don't even have a view yet.
Yeah.
Just like the way this path sort of winds up into the trees, combined with, which we're gonna get to a little bit, the uniformity of the trees, kind of creates this spectacle of we're in a forest, but it does feel a little bit like it was made for us. Just so cool.
A few minutes later.
Alexa and I are about a mile or so into our hike, and we already came across one of the few things that I really wanted to talk about. If you look closely through the greenery here, you can actually see victims of those great fires. These towering husks that's right behind me right here are what we call ghost snags. And they are the dead remains of those original trees that used to be everywhere where we're standing right now. That right there is an ancient part of that forest. 90 years ago, completely burned to the ground, aside from a few of these guys. And everything green below them, it all had to be carried in by hand in the aftermath. The state of Oregon launched one of the largest reforestation projects in history. After Oregon's approved a bond measure for reforestation and protection of the burned areas, they mobilized everyone. Boy Scouts, school children from Portland, everyday citizens, and prison inmates. Armed with shovels, they marched into the ashes and hand-planted an astonishing 72 million seedlings.
In addition to the efforts on the ground, 1 billion dug-fir seeds dropped from helicopters. And those efforts would once again change the forest.
So longtime viewers will know that Alexa notoriously always wears her Converse in places she has no business having Converse.
Fashion over function.
But this time, I told her, I was like, bring your hiking shoes, and she did. And that made that whole process a whole lot easier.
The trail is about to get a lot steeper, so we figured we would take a break on this nice bench and do some geography trivia.
Which, quick shout out, thank you, Samu Tehi, hope I'm pronouncing your name right. They built this bench just last October. Eagle Scout, Troop 225, baby.
All right, are you ready for some wildfire trivia? Question number 1. What percentage of wildfires are human caused?
I actually don't think it's that many in the grand scheme of things, because there's a lot of wildfires that just start by lightning strikes. Is this global or US? Okay, I'm gonna say
US.
I'm gonna say 15%.
You were wrong. It's estimated between 85 and 90% of wildfires.
So inverse it, and I'm right.
Like about 10% are started by lightning.
All right.
True or false? Wildfires can start their own weather pattern.
That's very true. In fact, I talked about it as part of this video and how the wildfires here in the Tillamook Burn created their own weather pattern.
Oh, I wasn't listening. On average, how many wildfires does Oregon experience each year?
Sad. Because they impact us so much, guys. 130.
Oh, I wish. 1,900.
Boof.
And it's probably of varying sizes, but either way, not a good number.
Wildfire's a wildfire.
How many acres burn because of wildfires in the United States each year?
2.5 million.
No.
Am I really low again?
It's a big number. So it's 7.4 million.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't like outlandishly off. It's not like I said 25,000.
Yeah, true.
But still no.
And last but not least, we're gonna go global here. Where did the largest wildfire in the world happen?
You know, I really wouldn't be surprised if it was like the Amazon or the Congo rainforest.
And you'd be wrong. Sorry. Okay, this was the Siberian taiga fire.
I actually did know that.
Of 2003, and it covered 55 million acres across eastern Siberia and Russia. You did okay.
I did one. I got one. Yay.
Yay, go Jeff.
All right, it's time to get off of this bench and keep hiking up this trail. Okay, so we're in our last half mile of elevation. If you remember correctly from the beginning of the trail, We were going up about 3,200 feet of elevation. I thought we would have been higher at this point, but we're only at elevation 2,000 feet, which means in about a half mile, we're climbing 1,200 feet. If you don't do a lot of hikes, you might not have any perspective for how much that is, but it means that we haven't even hit the toughest part of this hike yet.
I'm sure the views will be worth it.
You guys probably can't tell, but the trail has gotten very steep, very fast. And so, as usual, we do this so you guys don't have to. But you should do this because it's beautiful and everybody loves a good hike. So do Kings Mountain if you're ever in Oregon, but it's a butt kicker.
Good thing we got sticks.
12 seconds later.
You want to race, Alexa?
No. Yeah, you go ahead.
I don't know if you guys can tell, but we're getting practically up to the leaves here of the needles. If there was a wildfire here, ground fire, we would be in very dangerous territory.
Why would you say that?
There's no wildfires right now, at least not here in the Coast Mountain Range. The entire premise of this video has been that this is a fake forest. Now, when you think about that, you're probably thinking that these are all fake trees, you know, plastic trees, they're not real. These are actually real trees. Where the fakeness comes in is that this is not a naturally grown forest, at least not anymore. Because this is where the physical geography and the human geography really do collide. When nature plants a forest, it happens over thousands of years. You get giant, ancient trees mixed with tiny saplings, creating a varied, multi-level canopy. But because this entire forest was planted by humans at roughly the exact same time, it has an unnatural, uniform age canopy. All the trees are the exact same height, competing for the exact same sunlight. It also means the forest floor is unusually dark, which entirely changes what kind of shrubs can grow, and exactly what kind of wildlife can survive here compared to an old-growth forest. Which brings up an interesting topic: old-growth forests. Here's the thing. This beautiful forest we're hiking through right now, with all these very beautiful trees that I've been gushing over this entire hike, this is not an old-growth forest, not anymore. It was a marvel of human effort, but what we lost was so much more. In fact, I'm actually gonna stop right here to finish this segment off because the uniformity of these trees is just the most perfect example I can have to talk about old growth forests, because they do not look like this. Old growth forests are generally much better than a replanted forest for a number of reasons. For one, they hold so much more carbon, which I don't have to tell you guys, but in a warming world is very important. But also they have just simply much more biodiversity. And perhaps most importantly and pertinent to our video today, old growth forests are much better at withstanding wildfires than replanted unnatural forests. Because when everything burns at a crown, like what happened here 90 years ago, the uniformity in this forest means that all of those branches will ignite at once. So this forest right now is going to be much more susceptible to another wildfire. And that's sad because this is a very beautiful forest, even if it is replanted. We are in our last half mile, so we should have a really great view when we get there. How you know we're about at the top is our tree cover suddenly gets reduced to nothing. I'm gonna save some comments for when we're actually at the top, but fully worth it. You guys might be wondering, why climb up a mountain to talk about a forest? Alexa, why might that be?
Because we're above where all the trees are and we can see how uniform they are.
Well, that, and I think I just want to paint the picture that this entire area was all on fire. And the other really great part about doing this hike is that, you know, hiking in the Mount Hood National Forest or the Columbia Gorge is relatively common. The Coast Range, it's not nearly as common, and therefore it's much less common to actually see these mountains. And it just so happens to be one of the more important mountain ranges, particularly for us in the Willamette Valley. while it may not be a perfect natural forest, the Tillamook State Forest is incredible to behold. It's a 350,000 acre living monument to a generation of people who looked at an apocalypse, picked up a shovel, and decided to fix it.
All right, y'all, it has been so interesting learning about the Tillamook Burn, walking through the Tillamook Forest, and just getting out in nature.
Unbelievable forest. Even though it is quote unquote fake, it is still very real. These are real trees. They're just human planted trees. It's just incredible. It's an incredible combination of human geography and, of course, natural geography.
But next week, we are gonna be once again out in the forest. But this one is a little bit different. We're going to Silver Falls.
So it's gonna be a whole lot of waterfalls. There will be a forest aspect, but that won't be part of the story.
Not really.
It's gonna be all about the waterfalls, baby.
We'll come back next week.
For another adventure.
See you then.
Or rather, it's man-made. No, let me tell you. Or rather, it's human-made. Feminist. Definitely getting this. The victims of those big no, I can't say big ass. Those big fires.
Onward and upward. See some more big go snags.
Hate those stupid shots.